Hi guys, welcome back to another For Those Who Code video. This channel is where we discuss and learn new skills around the topics of design and development. If you want to grow your skills and learn new things that's coming up, do like, share, and please do subscribe for more. In this video, we'll be learning on how we can create a website, blog, or call it a landing page built with NextJS. Let's take a look at what we'll be building. This is the application that we'll be coding together. To build this website, or you can call it blog or anything, we will be using NextJS and GraphCMS, which is a headless CMS to query our GraphQL data, and Chakra UI to style up our interface. And as you can see here, it's pretty much straight and simple mini website, so to say. So we have a self-introduction, and here is hard-coded text, and here we can see some blog writings, and obviously we are not focusing on the actual content or neither design aspect of things, but basically focusing ourselves on how we can query some data with our GraphCMS and consume that data inside of our website. And here are a couple of 4 blogs listed, and if we visit view all, then we can see list of all blogs that we have, and we can go to next and previous blogs, see the paginated data there. And also let's go to case studies, and these are the list of case studies. We can go to detail screen, and you can see the details and go back. Well, this is the website blog, so let's get started. Basically, I have already created a blank project from Create Next App, and currently I have added some minor configuration here and there. I have added an absolute path, which you can find it inside of jsconfig.json, and also add some prettier and ESLint here and there. So yeah, and for the code repository, you can find it in my personal repository here, and go to the main, which I'll be adding in the description down below as well. So first of all, before we start, let's move and focus towards GraphCMS. So GraphCMS is simply a headless CMS which helps us to query our data with the help of GraphQL. And obviously we won't be diving deep into GraphQL, but obviously it's good to have some basic understanding of how GraphQL works. If you don't have an account, please go ahead and create an account with GraphCMS. And if you already have an account, just go and log in. So I already have an account. I'll just go and log in, and I'll close this. And obviously we'll be using and starting things up with Chakra UI. And I've already added Chakra UI inside of our this blank starter project. I've already created one first, so let's go ahead and start with a blank one. So for now, I'll just add some project name, which can be blog site, and add my personal blog with GraphCMS and next. And a little bit near to Australia. Let's choose India for now, and let's create our personal project. After this has been done, we'll be now heading towards how we can create some schemas and models inside of our GraphCMS. Yeah, for the pricing plan, we will be sticking with a free plan for now. Definitely they have a generous free plan, just 5 seats and 100 GB of asset and 1 million API calls. So this would be great for us to start with. So let's go ahead and click that. And I don't want to invite any team members. I'll invite it later. And here we can see what are the steps needed to create our GraphQL endpoints. First of all, set your schema. Second, create contents. Explore content API, which can be grabbed from this play button here, which is an API playground for GraphQL, and make our API accessible and with the help of their API endpoint, and integrate it with our front-end application. with Next.js. So first of all, let's go ahead and set up our schema. So for setting up our schema, we need to create a model first. So let's create our first model. For the first model, we can call it blogs because we have a list of blogs here, and we obviously have a heading and date. So here, let's call it blog and just leave our description there, and let's create a model. So after creating our blog as a model, then we need to create some fields for it. So let's go ahead and add some fields. First, let's grab single line text, and for single line text, we can call it title, which I have already written before, so I'll just use it. And for app ID, we can just use title. Let's leave a description, and let's use for validation, mark this as required, and we don't need a character count for now. So let's create. So we already have added our title, which is a string, single line of text, and it is required. Let's also add another thing, which is date. As you can see here, we have the title and date. So we will just grab our date. So let's click on date, and inside date, we can just add date and multiple values, no, required, yes, let's keep this required, and we don't have any advanced. So let's go ahead and create it. So now let's go ahead and also add some multi-line text. So this would be subheading of the app, I mean a blog post. So let's add a validation, mark this as required, and let's create. Let's go ahead and add some contents. So for our contents, we can just add rich text. So let's add a content here, and for validation, mark this as required. Another thing that we also want is some tags. If you visit this personal website right here, we can see some tags used. For example, this is a tag which is not generally styled as a tag, but we are just focusing on how we can grab the data from GraphCMS. So these are tags, so let's go ahead and add some tags. For tags, we will just add a single line of text, which can be called as tags. And for our tags, we will just allow multiple values, which helps us to store like an array of strings. So this would be great. So make this as required, and let's not limit the character count or a specific regex pattern. This should be fine. Let's go ahead and create it. So after creating tags, we also need is a slug, which should be the important thing that we will need later on for our dynamic route and all the stuff. So we need slug, so we don't have that, so let's write slug, and let's keep this ID blank, and let's generate this from our title. So let's add a title there. So I'll add title, curly braces, and let's also give it a name of slug, and that would be a lowercase. And validation, it would be a slug, and required. Yeah, obviously this is a required, but let's not keep this required for now. Let's go ahead and create it. And the last thing that we want to add is the banner image. So it's not loading here. Yeah, let's go ahead and add some banner image. For our banner image, we need to add some asset picker. So we can call this banner image, and that should be banner image, and allow multiple assets. No, we will just add a one asset for now, and validation, mark this as required. Let's go ahead and create it. All right, looks like our blog has been modeled. This is all the data that we will need. I mean, kind of like data that we will need, which is banner image, slug, tags, content, subheading, date, and title. So we will also add another model, which can be case study. And let's create a model. So inside of our case study, we want to add, first of all, let's go ahead and add some tags. For the tags, we can write a single line of text, and this can be tags and allow multiple values, which gives us array of strings. And for the validation, let's mark this as required, and let's create it. So we have already created our tags, and now let's move ahead and create our slug. So we definitely need a slug, which can be it's a title. So slug can be a title, and generate slug from template, and this can be a title uh, of title. So looks like we don't have a title yet, so I'll just dismiss that and create a title first of all. And let's validation, mark this as required, let's create it. So after adding title, let's go ahead and create the slug, which would be derived from the title itself, and that would be generated from the template, and that can be title. So it can be from a title. And validation, let's mark this field required, and let's create it. So after adding a slug, now let's go ahead and add some multi-line text, which should be a subheading, and let's mark this as required, and other things will be fine. Let's go ahead and create it. So after subheading, let's move ahead and create some content. So for our content, we can just grab rich text and write down content here, and validation, let's mark this as required, and that should be it. Let's create it. Okay, now the last thing is we also want to add a banner image for our case study. So for a banner image, like we did before, let's go ahead and grab asset picker, and let's call this a banner image. And this can be mandatory fields, and let's go ahead and create it. So now after creating all the modals and all the fields that we need, we can move ahead and create some contents. All right, so let's go to contents, and inside of our blocks we don't have any data, and inside of case study we don't have any data. So let me go ahead and create an item. So as you can see here, what we have did before inside of our schema, we define schema as title, date, subheading, content, tags, and slug, and a banner image. And we can fill this up. So for now, I will just grab in some random data and fill this up. So I've already added banner image, slug, and all the fields needed. And let's go ahead and save and create another. So I'll add 5 or 6 of them behind the scene, and we will be shifting next to our adding some data inside of our case study. As you can see, I've already added some blocks here with some dummy contents in it, and we don't have everything published, so we can tick mark, and let's go to publish. So we can publish all of them at once. So 5 items published, and if we hit and refresh, then we should see all of the contents inside blog has been published. So in the same way, I will go to case study and add some items here inside these fields, and I will be back when it will be ready. All right, I'm done with adding some dummy case studies and also blogs. Inside blogs, you can see 6 of the blogs, and inside case studies, we have 6 of the case studies. But looks like we have the case studies in draft. So let's go ahead and publish this up. So after publishing, we can see the stages has been changed, which is great. And now we can go to our API playground and like query in with some data that we want. So first of all, let's go ahead and like grab all the blocks that we need. So to grab all the blocks that we need, we can just write here blog. So we can see the intelligence kind of thing there. There is blogs, so let's go with blogs. And inside that blog, let's grab just the title of it. So it's that simple as this. So let's go ahead and play it. And as you can see here, we have all the titles that we need. And this is all the title of all the blogs. So if we go to our schema here, you can see we can grab in not just title, but date, subheading, content, tags, slug, and banner image. So I will just add everything right in here. Let's skip content for now. Let's hit on play. And looks like everything is working except the content. So let's go ahead and see why. Oh, looks like we did made a mistake here. So let's go ahead and delete this field because we really don't want this kind of content. Instead, we are looking for a markdown content. So let's go ahead and add content here, and app ID would be content, and validation is required, and you have migration. No, for now it's created, and this is created. And let's go here ahead, and inside of our content, let's add in the content for the content. Okay, we have added all the contents needed. Let's go ahead and click all of it, and with a single click, let's go ahead and publish it. Okay, looks like everything has been published. Now we can write content here. Let's hit that play button, and looks like field content. Uh, now we should get all the data. So yeah, this is it. So we have received all the data, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and 6 blogs. So these are all the blogs that we need. So let's like rename this QUER query, and let's call it all blogs here, and let's prettify it, and let's hit play. Looks like everything is working fine, and we have all blocks added here, which is great. All right, so now let's move ahead to another tab, and inside this tab we just want to render 4 blocks. If you have seen this website before, I've already stopped it locally, but if you have seen this website before, we have just rendered 4 blocks and 4 case studies. So for now, to render the 4 blocks, we will name this query blog home. Let's call it blog home page, and inside of our blog home page, we need is let's add blogs, and inside here we just want to add the first, and let's grab first 4, and let's order this by date descending, and inside here let's add a title for now. And if we hit play, then we can see here just the 4 blocks with the title, right? So now we just don't want the title, we just want title, date, tags, log, content, and the banner image with URL and width and height. So I'll go ahead and type that one out. I've already added all the things that we will query, and let's hit that play button. So if we hit that play button, you can see here we have the tags, we have the slug, we have the content, and everything that we need. So this is what we need currently. So sticking with these 2 queries, I will go ahead and get inside of our application. And inside of our application, what we want to do first of all is go to our pages and go to app.js. Inside app.js looks like we haven't created a layout, so I will go ahead and create a new file and call it layout. So let's move this layout to our components because it's not pages or anything. So inside of our layout, let's import our footer that we have, because we want to have this footer from our footer. So that'll be fine. And let's also add nav bar. So I haven't really created a nav bar. So nav bar, let's call this navbar.js, and let's create a constant and call it navbar, and this would be arrow function, and we will just have empty fragment for now and call it navbar. And let's export the constant we created. So that would be default, export default navbar. Okay, so yeah, so after that has been done, we will go to our layout and let's also import our navbar from, that would be inside of components. So components and then navbar, and we can use the same pattern up here, which is absolute import onents components and footer. So let's also like add export default function layout, and yeah, we will grab this children and we will return this, which is what we need. So we will wrap this in main so that it would be a bit more semantic. So alright, so after we wrapped it inside of our layout, we will go to our index.js or app.js and like wrap it up inside of our layout. So let's import layout. That would be like import layout from components and layout, and we want to wrap our layout to this, right? So let's grab this and let's place it here. So yeah, so this is basically it. So let's go ahead and see this up in the browser. Let's hit run npm run dev, and let's go to our browser. Looks like navbar, nothing was returned from the render. Okay, we need to return this stuff here. So let's write a return, return, and then we will return this piece of JSX right here. So that should be fine. So if we take a look at the browser now, all right, navbar is here, and we have two footers because I don't know, we imported footer somewhere else. So that's not a big issue, but we have the working file here. So let's remove footer from here, and we are good to go. All right, so looks like we have the chakra working fine, and the navbar component is also inside of our layout, which is great. So now the first things first, let's go ahead and grab some data from our GraphQL endpoint. To grab all the data that we queried right now, let's grab just 4 blocks inside of our home page. We just want to have 4 blocks, and when user clicks on see all, then we will grab this query, which will grab all the blocks that we need. That's straight simple. Okay, so let's go to our settings here. So inside of our settings, if we go to API access, then you can see here that we can like have our public content API, or we can have our tokens, right? So we will stick with just like public API. So we will won't be really needing some header authorization token. So that would be like public access to all. So this is like file permission, create permission is just a public access. We just added all modals to read, and it's published, right? So we can use this, and for our endpoints, as you can see here, this is our endpoint. Let's go ahead and copy it. So let's like paste that endpoint inside of our file. So for now, I'll just use, I don't know, let's call it constants. So constants, inside of our constants, let's add index.js. And inside here, we want to like grab that particular endpoint that we grabbed and paste it inside here, call it API and endpoint. And we can just add our endpoint right there. Okay, so it looks fine. So to like query our data and to grab some data from our GraphCMS, we obviously need some packages. So let's go to npm, and we will be making the use of GraphQL request, which is a package that we'll be using. So let's grab our npm I GraphQL request, and let's hit npm I and paste it right in there. It looks like looks like we already have the npm I there, and we also need another thing, which is GraphQL, a GraphQL request and GraphQL. This would be fine. Let's go ahead and press enter. And after we have added that two packages here, we can query some data with our GraphQL endpoint. So let's move ahead and create a new file here. We'll call that not inside pages, but inside of our root directory, and let's call it lib. So inside of lib, I will create a new file and call it data.js. So inside of our data.js, we will import the endpoint that we created, which is API endpoint, and that can be grabbed from a constant and index. We don't need a JS there, a constant and index. And I rather love to use these absolute import. So for that, we need to make the change into jsconfig.json and place it right in here. So that would be from lib from constants, and let's add constants there and save it, and everything will be fine. Now let's go ahead and import our GraphQL client and GQL. So GraphQL client and GQL. So basically these are just two things that we need. So let's read the documentation, what they have here. And it's straight, simple, and what I like about GraphQL is it's like really simple, and it is self-explanatory in a sense. So we are not using any authorization header, like we added our public content API here, so we don't need any authorization header, and we already imported these two stuff. So now let's go ahead and create some asynchronous function that will add this const query, and we can write our query like this. Later on we will like GraphQL in request.query and console log data. So this is straightforward. So let's go ahead and implement this stuff right in here. Okay, so first of all, I would like to export a constant and use it in some another file. Get blogs. Let's call it get blogs and cases. So basically, we just want to grab the blogs and cases. So that would be both blogs and cases, and we just want to grab first four blogs and cases. So I'll just add blogs and cases, and inside of our case, so let's add a case studies, and we will obviously have this first four and order by date descending, and let's grab in title first of all. So we are like accessing all the data, which is the blogs and the case studies inside of single GraphQL endpoint. Let's hit play, and expected case study but found. All right, so it looks like something is not case studies. So now it's working fine. It should be case studies, not case underscore study and all the stuff. And if we hit play, then we can see blogs and as well as case studies, which is what we wanted. So we have created this blog and case studies and just blog home, and we won't be needing blog home because if we visit our home page, we will grab all the all four blogs and four case studies, and others would be just like view more. So we will grab this query and we will be needing that query sooner. So inside of our this function here, which gets all the blogs and the case studies, we can add a constant and call it GraphQL client, and add a new GraphQL is equal to new GraphQL client, and we can write our API right in there. So all right, so now let's create a constant and call it query. So inside this GQL, and make the use of backticks. So inside this backticks here, what we need to do is we need to grab in all the query that we created here, which should be inside of this braces, and we'll grab everything inside there and paste it right in here. So that's our GraphQL query, and we forgot one of the braces there, and this is our query. So we grabbed it from GraphQL, and what we want to do is we want to await GraphQL client dot let's add this GraphQL client dot request and passing this query, which we'll grab in as data. We can call it response, and let's return that response or response. We don't need .json. We will just return this response. All right. So looks like GraphQL client. Oh, this should be a smaller case. So I will also write a small case here. So this should be fine. So now let's grab some of our data that we like added here inside of our main page, which is inside of our index.js. So let's remove everything what we have here. Let's create an empty fragment, and inside there, what we want to do is let's keep that head at the top, So we will just grab everything right in here. So like this. All right, so let's remove this. First of all, what we want to do is we want to make the use of get static props. Basically, get static props is just to build the uh, it will receive the static props and build out some static which is really useful for building static blocks and static pages. So that's why we'll be making the use of get static props here. So let's export our constant, and we will call get static props, and which would be definitely a synchronous function. And we will grab in the data, which we will await from get blocks and cases. I think this is the blocks and cases. So we need to import to get blocks and cases from read lib/data. So I suppose it's added here. It's not added. Let's also add lib. So lib, and let's hit save. And inside here, we want to grab this get blocks and cases and invoke that function. And after invoking that function, we will definitely receive the response, right? So return, and inside of get static props, we want to return the props here. So that would be the data that's fetched from this API call. So after receiving that particular data, we will go to our const home inside at the top, and we want to destructure the data that we receive from get static props. And after destructuring that data, we can like loop down everything that we need. So let's like write dot map, which is, this is also great. Data dot let's also use optional chaining for now. Blocks dot map, and we want to map the item, and also let's grab the index of it. Inside here, we want to access the item dot title. Let's just print out item dot title. It looks like something is not right, so let's add box here. And inside here, let's access item dot title, and we obviously want to have our key, right? So to have our key, we will just add a div, and inside this div we will add our key, which should be the index right there. All right, so it should return a single wrapped JSX, and let's hit save, and this should work as expected. So we will get the list of all the blocks here, and let's also like print out the data, console.log data, and let's hit save. And if we hit npm run dev, then we should see our data inside of our browser. Let's, box is not defined, that's fine. Box is like Chakra UI element, so let's grab it from Chakra UI, hit save, let's hit a refresh, and here we go. We have all the data that we need, and which is just the title for now, which we grabbed it from our GraphCMS. So we are halfway through, and so now Let's like, why isn't this expanding? This is weird. So this, like, go ahead and like print out, map out all the um, blogs as well as the case studies. So I've already basically looped over and mapped over all the data, which is from the blogs, and I also grabbed next link and wrapped our links with the next link. Basically, I haven't really made the use of link from next link, but the next link from next link, because I also wanted to use link from Chakra UI, so that collides. So that's why I'm using next link from next link, not just link. And I've already added the case studies here as well, data.casestudies.map, which will be mapping down item and index. And here we have made the use of a next image and passed in the src with height and some temporary alt for now. So after hitting save, and if we take a look at the browser, we can see the most common like the error while working with Next.js. And this is basically, we haven't really kept our source of image, which is media GraphCMS slash the ID of the image inside of our next config. So let's go ahead and add our image inside here. So I'll just grab the media.graphcms.com and let's restart the server. So this will basically, behind the scene, Next won't be really accepting the images from the third-party services. So we have used. So that's a great thing. So we need to point out which domain is it for fetching the image. And looks like we have like HTML containing div in an anchor, and we also have some images rendered here, which is looking great. So one thing to be noted, as you can see here, we have like used next link, right? So basically we have used next link, but the interesting thing here is we have also added the ref in advance. So that would be some dynamic route that we haven't created but will be creating now. So ref slash blogs and slash item.slug, which we created the slug field. You remember when we created some schema and model inside of GraphCMS, we created a slug. And we assume that every slug is unique because it's more or less the title itself. And we have made use of dynamic paths. So we really haven't made that dynamic path yet. So let's go ahead and create our blogs inside here. And inside our blogs, let's create our index.js. So inside here, I will create a constant. Actually, not really index, but what I want to do is I want to write some dynamic import like slug.js. So this should be dynamic. So that would be slug.js. Not just index.js. So inside here, I'll create my blog as constant. We want to like receive something right in here. So let's return some JSX. Let's write my blog detail. Right. So and let's also export export default my blog. All right. So if we look here, we have the data that's printed. That's fine. And if we go ahead and inside of our index.js, let's like remove this stuff for now. And this is a blog system. That's fine. So we have the navbar inside layout and some images rendered. This is looking great. So now we just added a dynamic route for our blog, right? So right in here, so it's blog item.slug. So if we click on this particular blog, and as you can see here, we can see my blog detail. So this is basically the dynamic stuff that we wrote inside here, right? So we have the navbar, we have the footer, and we have the blog detail. And the interesting thing is we also have the slug that's added to our URL, which is great. That's what we wanted. So now what we can do now is we can create a function inside of our data.js, and that function would take in the slug as a parameter and spit out the detail of this particular blog page, right? So we have the slug and we want to get the access of the data of that particular slug, right? So let's go to our data.js, and inside here I'll create a constant and call it get a single blog, and which should be a synchronous function because it takes a little bit of time to get some data. So and let's create a constant and call it GraphQL client and new GraphQL and API endpoint. Yeah, that's right. Thanks. Thanks GitHub Copilot. And the query would be gql, and inside here we want to add our query. So before moving forward, let's go to our playground and write some query to access our single blog with the slug that's passed in. So let's call this query and get single blog, and we want to add the slug, and that should be a string, and it's that's what we need. And let's also add blogs, and the tricky thing is right in here where, and what we want to do is we want to add this particular slug to the slug that's passed in. So that slug right in here. So and we want to grab just the title of it for now. So we will just move to our query variables, and inside here let's add a slug of one of the thing right in here. So inside here what we can do here is we can add a slug, and the slug is this particular name, right? Let's grab just the title of it. So if we hit play, then we should, yeah, that's it. So we got the title of this particular slug that's passed in, right? And this particular slug is a string, and that slug is passed into the slug where we are returning just the title. So in the same way, what we want to do is we want to like grab everything. So I will just go ahead and paste the URL. If we get this, then this is fine. Yeah, this is also working great. So we can use that inside of our practice right here, which is looking great. All right, so now let's create a constant and call slug name, and we want to add just the slug inside there because we want to receive this slug, and because we want to pass this slug name in our GraphQL request, right? So let's add a constant and call it response. So response would be this exact thing, right? So GraphQL client dot request, and we'll pass in the query as well as the slug name, which we created here. which is great. And finally, let's return response. All right, so this is it. So let's also like const. All right, so looks like everything is fine. Let's go grab get single blog, and we will go to our the slug page that we created before, and inside here we want to get static props. um, ex export const get static props, and that should be an asynchronous function. And inside here, what we want to do is we want to create a constant and call it get single blog. So that single blog is the thing that we just created, which is get single blog, right? So let's write this one here, and we also definitely need to import get single blog from our lib data. And yeah, so we will grab this, we'll call that function here, and what that returns is and we need to return some props inside here. So for to return get static props, we want to add a single blog right in here. And let's grab this single blog, and let's destructure the single blog right in here. And let's for now print out let's add a box, import it from Chakra, and inside here we want to grab in single blog and access the blog property or blogs property and just the first index of it, and we want to print out the item, the title. So let's we haven't really made the use params, and looks like we really haven't made the use of params, and we forgot something. This should be params dot slug. So single blog would be like it takes in a parameter of the slug, and we format this and hit save. And if we take a look at can read property undefined of reading blogs, so let's add an optional chaining right there. And get static paths is required for dynamic SSG. Okay, so it looks like we need a static get static paths here. So let's take a look at what get static paths look like in the NextJS doc. And here is it. So a get static path, which it can be an asynchronous function, which generally returns paths, and that paths needs to be params, and then we need an object to be passed in, right? So params and then object. So yeah, the get data comes from header CMS, from database, from file system, get static paths. All right, we can obviously grab this, yeah, and let's paste it inside of here, and let's export a constant and call it get static path, right? And we will change this to fat arrow function, and we will make the use of arrow function here. All right, so inside here, what we want to do is we want to pass in the object of all the slug that we have, because it's a path for us, right? So we want to grab in all the slug that we have. Let's create like blog slugs, and let's wait for our get blog slugs. Mm, get blog slugs, and right here. So we really haven't created the function get blog slugs. So we will be creating get blog slugs inside here. So now let's create a function, and that can be named get blog sorry, get blog slugs, and which should be an asynchronous function because it takes a bit of time and it really doesn't need that. So this will be fine. It doesn't really take in some parameters. And it looks like we have something here, so we will truly accept this because this is what I wanted. A GraphQL client, a new GraphQL client, and we will pass in the GraphQL endpoint, and we will query the blogs, all the blogs, and we want to receive the slug and response GraphQL dot query, which we will pass in here and return response. Yeah, this is clearly what I wanted. So now let's go to our get blog slugs, right? And we have the blog slugs in here. So let's grab now let's create a constant because we want to make an object with the like params and all the slugs in here, right? So to create an object, we need to map over the available slugs that we have and create the object out of it. So we will like slug paths. So we call it slug paths, blog slug dot map, and that would be params, and inside that params we have slug and slug dot slug. So blog, oh, this would be a slug, uh, slug path, and we can grab in this slug path and paste it right inside of there because we have created this stuff. Looks like we have a bracket missing right there, and we have created that slug paths and created param, slug, and slug. This is exactly what we want: params, paths, and params with all the like URLs, so to say. So let's save this. Let's go to our index.js, and we have this item.slug, which is great. Now let's hit save and let's take a look at the browser. Let's hit refresh. Get blog slugs not defined. All right, let's see why. Data. Oh, we haven't really exported this. Export const get blog slugs. Let's refresh this. Blog slugs.map is not a function. So blog slugs.map. Looks like we missed out something here. So it should be blog slugs, and we have dot blogs, and we have dot map, and this should work. So let's go ahead, and we can see here we have our title that's been right here. So we can go back and let's grab containing a tag. It's just a warning. So let's click on super handy lorem ipsum. All right, so to get around with this issue, we need to import our use router, import um, use router from next router, and we want to create a constant and use that use router that we imported, and basically we want to check if the router dot is fallback. So and we should return some loading right in here. So if the router is totally not ready, in a sense, we should return the loading right in there. So if we hit on save and refresh, then we should see that great lorem ipsum placeholder text has been rendered, and super handy lorem ipsum is also printed out. I mean, we can see it in the UI. Generate, okay, it looks great. So now let's go ahead and add all the data that we have from our GraphCMS and print it out in the UI. So I've already added all the data that we need, which is just a date, and I've converted this particular date and wrapped it with new date and convert it to the date string so that it's more readable, and also mapped over like the tags that we created. Everything is fine except one thing that we need to do is we want to make the use of so-called MDX remote. So we'll be grabbing our markdown files with a new library called NextMDX remote, and meanwhile we'll also be using NextMDX remote hydrate to hydrate our markdown. So before that, I will just go ahead and install some React icons that's needed because I've used a React icon there. So let's npm run dev. So this is working fine as expected. So everything is fine except we don't have the real content, which is the markdown, right? So if you remember, we grabbed a markdown here, so which is content markdown. So in order to go around with that one, I will we really don't have blogs, but we need to create blogs. So to get our head around with that one, we will make the use of next MDX remote. So next MDX remote, and we will go to like this or npmi next MDX remote, and we will install this as a dependency. Meanwhile, we will also need another package which is called he, which is this one, and I think we will be pretty much okay with this render to string MDX remote. All right, this would be fine. So next MDX remote and he. So if we take a look at next MDX remote and he, then let's take a look at what we have. Obviously, we can use markdown MDX with next MDX remote or MDX as other library, but so I'm here inside of our he, which is the library that we're gonna use for decoding our markdown. So if we visit our decode part right here inside of he.decode, we can see we can just pass in the the actual content inside here, which is straight simple forward. And with MDX remote, we can obviously use a serialize, but we won't be really using a serialize for this. So we will be making the use of MDX remote and he. All right, so let's grab this also uses serialize. That's fine. So let's go ahead and import these two stuff that we added, which is we want to import he. Let's import he from he, and we also want to import hydrate from MDX remote, and render to string from next MDX remote. So we want these libraries. So first of all, what we want to do is we want to go to our the content part. So inside here we have this single block, right? So we can add a second prop to this and call it content, right? And we want to await, and let's use render to string, and we want to especially use he.decode and pass in our single blog content right in here. And this particular content we can grab it from here, and we want to now make the use of hydrate. So inside of our add contents here, let's go ahead and add our content, and we want to add hydrate and pass in our content right in there. Okay, so now let's go ahead and spin up our dev server. And let's visit localhost 3000, and looks like everything is working fine. Let's visit this. Model not found, hydrate not package, MDX remote hydrate. So it looks like we did install MDX remote. Okay, so I have found an issue here. So for now, for currently time being, I'll just use this particular version of MDX remote, which is 2.1.4. And after that's done, let's hit npmi, because looks like this hydrate stuff is not really used in this new model, so it's probably deprecated or so. So hydrate is not exported, so that's why, and the hydrate is not working. So let's hit npm run dev and hit refresh, and looks like our markdown is also rendered on the screen, which is great. Okay, so just the back, we really don't have blogs yet. So basically this is it. So I will go ahead and go to like slash blogs and like create this link, because we want to like go to view all. So that's why let me go ahead and create a new page and call it blogs.js. And inside here, what do I want to do is I want to query in some blogs. So so first of all, what I want to do is create a constant and call it my blogs, and add blogs here, not in here, blogs in here, and for the time being, let's return some JSX and call it all blogs. Let's also remove that and export default my blogs. And if we visit this page, which is all blogs, that's fine, which is all blogs. All right, so this page is also working. So now in this page, if we go to our playground here and go to all blogs, and you can see we can find all the blogs right here. Definitely we can use the same query and like add the same query here, create like the same thing that we have created, like get all blogs, just add this here and do the thing. But I also wanted to cover something regarding pagination. So I'll just add, I won't be really diving into this file for now. Just add a new package for that one, and I will add SWR. So npm I SWR. All right. So I'll just add SWR because we will be using SWR to like make a track of our pagination and data caching and all the stuff. Yeah, so first of all, what I want to do is I want to get started with get static props. So before I start with get static props, what I want to do is I want to go to SWR documentation. So SWR and as you can see here, inside of our SWR, we need to create import fetch or from unfetch. This is using fetch, Axios, GraphQL, yeah, right here. So we are creating a constant called fetcher, and we are obviously using GraphQL request as well. And that feature will like take in some endpoint, and we can pass in query and some another variables that we need. So let's grab this. First of all, let's import use SWR. So I will import use SWR right in here, and we'll create a constant and call it feature, or let's call it fetch data, and that would like get 3 parameters. So this is exactly the same query, and then request query as a parameter, endpoint as a parameter, and another one variable as a parameter, and that another one variable would be the skip, right? So that would be skip. So so now let's go ahead and create our get static props. So inside here I will export const get static props, and which should be an asynchronous function. And inside here I will create a const, call it data, and I will wait for this fetch data, which will take in these things, right? And inside of our query, that would be we really haven't imported endpoint, so let's like import endpoint inside here, which we can grab it from constants and index. I will add endpoint here. We have our endpoint, and for our paginated blog, what we want to do is I want to go to let's remove everything that we have here. I want to like go to endpoints, and the first parameter, which is the endpoint, and second the query. For the query, I will go to playground and create another new query, and I will just grab a query, which is get paginated blog, right? So and let's hit play, and as you can see here, we have like the first 5 and skipped 0. So we can see it's a little bit twisted in a sense. We have ages node and accessing the other elements. So but in contrast, what we had before is just blogs, title, and all the stuff. But we are going with the ages node and all the stuff because we want the page info. So because we want the page info, we wanted to like grab the ages node and all the stuff. And if you see here, what we can see here now is pages info has next page true and has previous page false, and total page size is 5, right? So because we have passed down 5 in here, so if we skip 5 in here, then we should grab just 1, because in total what we have is 6 blocks in total. That's why we don't have has previous page, has next page is false, because we have 6 blocks and we are skipping things up. So let's not skip, which would be 0. If you are setting this to 2, this would be skipped to 2 to go to another page. So that would be the logic behind it. And we have this stuff here, so let's grab that. So to be a little bit much faster, I will just grab in the snippet that I have already prepared, which is basically the same thing, right? So we have the data, and this fetch data, which we call here as 3 parameters: endpoint, query, and variables. The first is endpoint, and second is the query, and third is optional parameter. So and we definitely want to return the the stuff that we have. Let's grab our return here, and we want to return blocks. We want to grab that data and return it as blocks. So in up here, what we want to do is we want to make the use of SWR hook, and we definitely also want to keep the track of states. So for that, I will like add 2 states here, which would be skip and set skip. Basically, this would trigger increment of skip. So we will be adding these into next and previous page inside of our on-click handler. And let's also grab in some SWR hook that we have here. So basically, let's go through this. We made the use of SWR, and we added these 3 things, which is endpoint, the query, and the variable, which is the skip. And we want to fetch the data, and currently the revalidation on focus can be true, because you can obviously research about revalidate on focus part, but this is like if we are in a different tab and we want to go back to the tab, it will refetch the data, that kind of thing. But initially that should be false, and initial data is blocks. So that blocks that we like return from here, but we haven't really restructured blocks, so I will just add blocks here as well so that it would be clear. So we are getting this block here, and that would be the initial data. And fetch data, like we are like making the use of this function that we created here. Basically what this SWR documentation tells us. So now I want to speed things up. First of all, let me grab in some stuff that we need, which should be the data. I mean the data inside the markup. So yeah, right here, what we have done is we have created a data, and it made the use of optional chaining and .block connection and .aces.map, because we have this block connection .aces.node dot dot items.node.slug. Yeah, item.node dot and we have just accessed it and like printed it out inside here. And specifically inside of our pagination, we have an on-click handler that like increments the skip. So initially the skip is 5 because we added a 5 in here, which is first 5. If this should be 2, then this should be also 2 right in here. So we skipped 5 and we decrement when we go backwards, and we increment when we move forward, with the 5 blocks to be skipped in a sense. And we also added disabled if no data and blocks.connection.page.info has previous page, then it's not disabled. If it has next page, it doesn't has next page, it's disabled. That's it. So definitely the code would be shared in the description down below, and I will let's go with npm run dev. And if we go to blogs, then we should see the list of all blogs that we have, and we have total of 5. And this yeah, we have a total of 6 blogs, and currently I am looking at total pages of 1. That's true. Total pages is 5. I think the total pages is not correct, because it should be page info.page size. Yeah, that's the page size. Okay, total page size. All right. So more or less we have covered this blogs part. So what I want to do is I want to add minor fixes and styles here and there. And majorly what I want to do is I want to like work on this same that we did here, because I don't really want to like eat a lot of time. Basically we want to like get into this case study. We really don't have this case study here, neither we have all the cases here. So I'll just go ahead and create all the case study and the dynamic route for the case study, and more or less we are all done. All right, guys, so I've already wrapped up some part of it. So we created same thing that we created for blogs, which is just a detail for blog, like grabbing the slug out of it and like going through the slug and fetching in the the markdown, and let's go back and taking a look at another one. We have this ready. So we have all the things that we like planned out. So we have this a random image and heading for all of it, and also added some this code blocks. And yeah, so this is basically it. So guys, in this video we learned about how we can create a simple website, landing page, or you can call it a blog application with React using NextJS. I hope you learned something new from this. Obviously you can find the code repository added down below in the description. So if you guys want to learn more around the topics of design and development, please like, share, and subscribe with the clip down below. Thanks a lot, guys. See you in the next one.